Well, hello to everybody out there in podcast radio land. I hope everybody's doing well. I mean, it's been a crazy week. It's always a crazy week around here, but welcome to the Rub Wrestling Podcast with Matt, Josh, and Chris. We just want to give you a big shout out. If you like our previous podcast from what we've had, you can always reach out to us. Basically, you can hit us up for questions or anything that you want to ask us in regards to rumors at the Rub Wrestling at outlook.com, I believe. Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm pretty sure after 12 tries, I should be able to get this right? And other than that, you can also find us on any place that you can actually find a podcast. Spotify, YouTube. You can find us on Google Play. Any one of those places. If you love what you hear and you like us, and even if you don't, just hit that follow button and subscribe. Helps us out because we can always check the numbers on Captivate when we go through that. So, gentlemen, massive. August is always massive. It has that one kind of week in kind of the beginning or closer to July where there's not a lot of sports, but August is booming. We got basically Premier League soccer that started. We got NFL that's in its preseason, but more importantly, we got a couple of major pay-per-views coming up starting next week. August 27th with Wembley, which what we're going to be spending the most of our time tonight talking about, as it is going to go down as probably the biggest wrestling show of all time. For AEW All In at Wembley. Chris, how's everything going with you on your end? Are you excited for everything that's going to be happening with Wembley and everything that's going to be happening in the month of August?
Yeah, good August so far. Baseball championships. We lost our last game, so we played game 5 for the championship on Monday. Bit of a headache today, so a bit of a busy week, so I've been lacking on the podcast, so that's why we haven't gotten a release yet. Really excited for Wembley. I think I'm going to go to shout out Chris McPherson. I think we're going to meet up and watch it. Start time of 1 p.m. doesn't really bother me on a Sunday, so that's pretty good. Just really looking forward to see what this is. Like it's I don't know, it's Tony's big shot.
I'm more excited at the possibility of being 40 years old and getting day drunk on a Sunday. So that's something exciting that I'm feeling coming along for that with a 1 p.m. start time. Josh, how's everything going on your end? How's your August been so far? Are you excited for this pay-per-view? Getting pumped up for it, or I'm assuming you are?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this. Actually, my week has been pretty shitty. As you guys both know, going to be going on strike on Monday. Don't want to get too much into it, but yeah, it sucks. But I'm looking forward to this event. Hopefully, it goes as already scheduled. But you know, I'm excited for it, and like Chris said, it's Tony's big shot, and I think this is like the potential to show that AEW is head to head with WWE and is its competitor, not its secondary promotion.
Yeah, it's just such a massive weekend. I think when you look at it overall, and you're looking at kind of the annals of everything going through from professional wrestling history, this is pretty much a historic event, and I think we've decided as a group today that we're going to actually take the time and really do it justice and go through basically with an all AEW show. For those that are into WWE, there might be a couple little snippets here and there that we are talking about it, but there are no topics to the show that will be dedicated to WWE this week. We're not saying skip the podcast. We're saying you should listen because it's worthwhile. It will be an historic event. Everybody should watch it. It is an amazing few weeks for wrestling in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So this is potentially, basically, I guess, historical timeline altering at this point is something that I like to say. So with that, we're going to kick it off. And we're just going to keep on track. We know right now at this point that based on the amount of tickets that are sold and based on the tickets that were really on the kickoff, All In is more than likely, probably, if it's not already, it will be the biggest live event of all time at Wembley Stadium. And Wembley Stadium, a historic stadium, maybe for not a lot of North Americans, but if you're soccer fans, a lot of FA Cup finals, big boxing matches have happened at Wembley in the past. There's a lot of history for sporting events in that stadium for that country, so it's going to be absolutely amazing. Now, my first question for you, Josh, is going to be, do you think the card of the show is going to represent the size of the occasion? I mean, now the card that's pretty much been almost finalized at this point, do you feel that it matches the size of the occasion for 80,000 plus at Wembley Stadium?
I mean, yes and no. I think that it has all the pieces that you want to be in it. I think that some of the matches aren't as good as they can be. The people who are in those matches are, the people that would give you exactly what you want. But I think that, kind of some of the matches that they have going aren't really going to be as great as they could have been, or could be. But I'm hoping to be surprised. I think that it's going to be massive. I just think it's kind of weird, some of the matches that they have, like how they have MJF and Adam Cole twice. It's, I get it. The storyline is part of the storyline, and I'm sure that there's going to be some type of swerve. But regardless of that, with the size of the roster and, AEW being notorious for having, 6-hour pay-per-views, to not use more of your people in the opener and to give it to, MJF and Adam Cole. So it's interesting. I'm hoping that it lives up to it, because I really think that this is going to make AEW that much better. But if they mess this up, then it could be part of their demise.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how it goes. I mean, the card is a little bit different, and we're going to talk about a few of the matches on the cards. We'll talk about probably all the matches, but we're going to talk about the main ones that are on there now. Fact or fiction for you, Chris? When you're looking at this, there's obviously a weird scenario for those that don't know out there, that there's also another AEW pay-per-view that's happening the following week, which I believe is All Out, correct? I think it's September 4th or September 5th. If I'm not mistaken on the date. I could have that a little bit off, but does having these two pay-per-views back-to-back, do you think that there's going to be some weird outcomes from the matches due to the impact of having All Out for the following week? Do you think that storylines are going to kind of blend in those two pay-per-views, Chris? What do you think?
Yeah, like it's there's gonna be quite a bit of storyline stuff, I think, going on, or something to set up Dynamite, to set up All Out. What I'm hoping doesn't happen is that we just see basically all the same matches at All Out, because it is kind of strange. Like, it doesn't seem like a lot of these have been given time to end a feud or to end the story, so it is kind of strange to see having a pay-per-view, having a Dynamite. Well, they have a Dynamite, a Rampage, and a Collision, so I mean, I don't know. It's a hard. I just don't know how it's going to work out with that, because with another pay-per-view, it's how are you going to set up another huge show with huge? You can't start new storylines within a week. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I think we're going to see some things that really surprise us, and I think we're going to see a few things that really get us groaning.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. I can't remember in a time that we've watched wrestling over a long period of time where there's been two pay-per-views back-to-back. I remember that WCW used to do sometimes the Monday Nitro at Club La Vila, which was always a big show that they used to do. And I remember that there was one night with the Club La Vila show where they went into a pay-per-view a week later, but it was still a Monday Nitro going into a pay-per-view, right? So the pay-per-view always take precedence. Now, when you're kind of running two pay-per-views back-to-back, and one of them is going to be the biggest show of all time, it's hard to believe that maybe one of these shows aren't going to be a disappointment. Obviously, we're really hoping that it's not Wembley, because that's the one that you want to have the most memory coming out of, right? Josh, do you think it's going to be a little bit weird having the two pay-per-views back-to-back? And are you hoping for that $100 US price that they've been talking about to get both pay-per-views?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I mean, it's a lot. It's really quick, but I think that, the AEW might have the roster, and maybe that's why some of those big names aren't seen on All In, is because then you can save them for All Out. I don't believe I see CM Punk with a match for All In, so maybe that's where he goes, is to All Out. I'm not sure. I haven't really seen any of the matches listed for All Out, if there's even out there. So I think that it could be like overwhelming to the fans, and then maybe it could be detrimental. But if they pull both shows off and they keep the storylines in line, or they make the stories work, then it could be a real success. I think that there's also the potential for people to come back for All Out that we haven't seen in a while, and maybe that'll be something that enhances that show.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Like I'm getting really excited for it, and the matches of the card and everything that we're going to kind of go through right now are kind of going to take us to that spot. So we'll do a little bit of a rundown of the card that we have up to date. But you're right, there's Starks that's not on it yet. There's CM Punk that's not on it. There's Miro. There's other people that you could assume that will be on certain pay-per-views. I think obviously some of the people that are all in are going to be on All Out, but we haven't seen. Actually, I was just going to say we haven't seen the Lucha Bros, but they're right there. So, but there are two mystery partners that are going to be coming in for that Stadium Stampede match as well. Now, kind of getting into the card, we're going to talk about a really interesting piece of news that kind of came through. So we're going to talk about the World Tag Team Championships, and we're going to talk about the Young Bucks versus FTR. And there was some really interesting news surrounding Cash Wheeler of FTR, where basically he was arrested for possession of a firearm last night, and I don't know where it is. I believe it was in Orlando, where I'm not going to assume, but I'm going to kind of give you a quick synopsis where a gun was flashed and basically he was arrested and put under a felony count at this point. Now, when we look at this, Chris, obviously, like this is going to take an impact from happening, but when we're looking at this match, how do you think AEW is going to handle this situation? And do you think that this match is actually going to go through, or do you think they'll make an announcement kind of squashing this match and potentially putting in a fill-in team?
Yeah, it's a felony, so it may be a low class felony, but I mean, states aren't usually of the type that let you leave the country if you're pending a trial. Unless he can get some kind of exemption because it is his livelihood. That's the only thing that I could think of, is if for some reason, because this is how he makes a living, they allow him to go. I mean, from what I know, he doesn't have much of a criminal background or a record, so that might help in that case where he's not a flight risk. He's not expected to just go to UK and then not come back. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I don't think they've announced anything yet, so I guess they're still discussing, but as a fill-in team, yeah, I guess they could save it for All Out. I guess they could move the match to All Out. But yeah, UK fans are going to want to see the Bucks, so you're going to have to get them in there somehow. So I'm sure TK will find somewhere to slot them in if the match can't go down, or maybe Briscoe's hurt, right?
Sorry,
I was going to think Briscoe, because you could do Dash and Briscoe.
Yeah, I think he is actually injured. He hasn't wrestled in a while. So
I think he's injured. So that could have been something they could have announced if he was okay. Like, it would kind of make sense with the Briscoes wrestling FTR, and I think that would be that'd be an okay fill-in if it was possible. Otherwise, I don't know. Maybe I think it's hard
to fill in because FTR is the champions, right? And I think the luxury of this match is having that match in Wembley for the titles. So,
right.
I don't think we can deny the people at Wembley by not having the Young Bucks. I fully believe that if FTR or Cash Wheeler can't go on, the Young Bucks will fight on that card at some point. Like, there's no way that you can keep that tag team off that card at that point. So, Josh, when you're looking at it and kind of like what we were saying, what are your thoughts on this whole situation? Do you think, like, if there was a team to fight the Bucks based on what you've seen on, the matches or the card that's coming up, I'm not going to speculate to say that it is, but do you think that there is a team that can fill in that will have a great match with the Bucks at that point if FTR can't go to London, if Wheeler can't cross the border?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think that there's a few people a few teams that they might book because they're, over, or because, the fans love them. I wouldn't want to see the Hardys fill in that spot, but I could see Tony putting them in a match with them again, just because of just because they're a bigger draw, maybe. But it's a tough one. I agree with Chris. There might have to be like a UK team or just like like you said, move it to all out so that the match continues, and then you don't sully it. Maybe give the Young Bucks a different type of match where they get involved or something like that. But I'm not sure. I don't really see it because like the teams that they could face are all are already kind of in matches already. Like you're seeing like the like people from the Blackpool Combat Club are already in a match, and then the Lucha Brothers are in a match. Like that would be Lucha Brothers would be an obvious like an opportunity again to have with the Young Bucks. But if they're already in a match, that's not as good. Maybe you bring in someone like a Vikingo and pair him with someone else, and like you have like like let's do a 5-star banger for the fans. Maybe that's an option. I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that FTR can still go. I think that there's a chance that Cash can figure his stuff out. It was a $2,500 bond. Maybe it is the situation like you said, because it's his livelihood that he would get that visa. But who knows? I don't think he's at a flight risk for a Class 3 felony.
No, I would have to agree. And I think at the end of the day, I think we're all hoping that it's FTR and the Bucks for the titles. I think that's just going to be a match for the ages. Personally, I have a feeling that this news will potentially impact the match. I think they're going to leave it out there regardless what they do. And I mean, you know what? They've had 5-star matches in the past. I'm not saying that they can't, but I said this kind of puts a little bit of a kind of a caveat in the match a little bit. So I hope it all comes to fruition. But you know what? We can bank on a couple different things. I was thinking fill-in team when looking at this card. Potentially you have, if FTR can't go, maybe you put the Young Bucks and somebody else and actually go against the House of Black for the Trios Championships, because I think that would be a banger of a match to have, especially with a little bit of the European roots that you have with Malachi Black being from the Netherlands and having that as well. I think so. That has a really Euro feel, and Malachi's definitely wrestled a lot in England, and I think he's going to get a massive pop. And you imagine Brody King on that stage in front of 80,000 people and them doing that finisher. Like, you're not going to have anybody that's not standing. So that would be my other one. Now, but let's be as real as we can be here right now. If Tony really wanted to make the money, like we saw on Dynamite with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre match with Jeff Jarrett and seeing Leatherface come out, like if this Cash Wheeler thing gets any worse, we can literally have a match with Cash Wheeler and Dog the Bounty Hunter and calling in the Big Bad Dog. And I'm not kidding. The Big Bad Dog, I don't know what kind of name you wanted. It's like basically...
I'm the dog, the Big Bad Dog.
But basically what should happen is Cash Wheeler has to basically get away from Dog and actually be able to find a way to pay his bond money before Dog catches him and sends him to jail. Like, I'm not kidding. If Tony wanted to make any sort of money, that's what you'd do. If anybody had any sort of humor whatsoever, fuck it. Let's just do it. I think that's the match to make here, boys. I'm not going to slice Josh's salami, but I'm going to pound the pavement and say, let's lock it in.
Oh, yeah, right. We're going right back to WCW, eh?
Oh, Jesus. It's just like those, when they started with the New Blood and all that shit with the blood coming from the ceiling, these gimmicky crap-ass matches, but... Lock it in. I think
which missed twice.
Yeah, I think that's the one that if we need to make money in a one-off, I think we bring Dog in for that. But just kidding. But it's still funny. I thought I'd get a good laugh out of you guys. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think we really do want to see that match in full in its entirety, and I think that's going to be an absolute banger if it happens. The next match that we're going to talk about is not one that I think a lot of people are super excited for. I think some people are, some people aren't. Which is basically after what happened with the Don Callis family and basically, Takeshita beating up Chris Jericho and then them slamming a painting through, we realized that Chris Jericho is going to be facing Will Ospreay in Wembley, in Ospreay's hometown, basically. Like, he's about 45 minutes away from London, he said during his press conference last time. So that should be a really interesting match. A lot of people are kind of saying, is it going to live up to Ospreay and Omega? Is Chris Jericho a little bit too over the hill? Is he a little bit too slow for Ospreay with what Ospreay can do? The question that we're looking for is, Chris, does this feel like it's a wrong pairing for a card of this magnitude? I mean, I know that you'd probably want to go back to Omega at this point and maybe see what we saw at Forbidden Door 2, but is it just a wrong pairing? Like, or are we overthinking this? And can Chris Jericho really deliver a good match here?
Yeah, I'm sure Jericho's gonna work to the best that he can. Yeah, I think it's a wrong pairing. I think they really dropped the ball, especially having Osprey on the card. I think Jericho is a little too slow. I mean, that being said, is the match going to be terrible? Probably not. It's probably still going to be an okay match, but with what they could have done with this, I don't know. It's just, if you watch Jericho take bumps now, it's like Ric Flair. They just fall like a sack of potatoes. Like they don't, like the selling's kind of still there, but it's like they just fall like a bag of rocks. Like they just hit the ground and it looks bad. So I don't know. Like I said, it's just gonna have to be a slower match than Osprey's kind of used to working. We'll see what he can do when he has to maybe carry somebody that's not at the same athletic level as him. Because Jericho's gonna need a couple. You're gonna need a couple submission holds for Jericho to take a breather here and then, and it might start out. I think it'll start out, and Jericho might go as fast as he can. But I think it's a good choice because Osprey's gonna get the win. Jericho's been putting people over lately a bunch, so I mean, it's a cheap pop, that's for sure, because he's gonna get the win.
Yeah, I think at one point when you're looking at that, and it kind of brings us to our next question, I think, like, in reality, I think we're all thinking the same thing, which is 4 words, Tiger Driver 91. When we're looking at a lot of stuff, and I can't see Chris Jericho taking that move, but again, I'm fucking firing out all the jokes tonight, boys. Let's be for real here. But the big one here is that, you have Osprey coming in from New Japan, right? One of the best in the world by far. No shame in taking a loss, but I think that the way that this Chris Jericho storyline has gone with the Jericho Appreciation Society, and now I personally thought that he was going to side with Callis, he was going to be in Callis' stable, and now that's not happening. I think, Josh, the question is, with Jericho's kind of got this tweener heat right now, where it's kind of like it's leaning towards him going face, but he's kind of still a heel, he's still a massive heel, but he's kind of got this tweener heat. But is he going to lose a lot of momentum by taking the L here? Like, I think if he loses this match, and I think that we're all, like, not stupid, we're probably all going to say that Osprey's going to win this match, but I think there is a percentage chance of Jericho, a very small percentage of Jericho winning it. Does the momentum of that heat and that his personality, everything that's happened over the last few weeks, does that momentum stop for him with this L at Wembley?
No, I don't think so. I think, in fact, that it's probably could be the catalyst to his next, his next big thing. Like when he was talking to Don Callis, I actually was surprised that he actually said he was going to join the Callis family, because the way that he was cutting his promo, he said, I don't join families, I create them, or something like that. And so I thought that was going to be his next line, was like, and then it's a big no. And then, when the swerve was that Don Callis was like, well, I thought you were going to say no anyway. So I made this painting of you and, all this other stuff. And so I think that, the loss, a win or a loss, I think that this could be the turning point to making Jericho the new, what's next after the Wizard or the Ocho, like, is it the Nueve, or whatever you want to, whatever, but I think that, it could be the next thing, or it could be like his swan song, right? Like, where it's like, he's now, the guy who's going to make those other new up and coming guys the stars, and he's going to give his gift to AEW and make the promotion, kind of have that promotion on his back.
Yeah, it's just got this weird feeling where I don't feel like he's retiring. Like, it seems like he's always wants to be in the forefront. He's internationally a superstar, and that's the way he kind of wanted to promote this match against Osprey in Wembley. And, I think it'd be interesting if he gets the W. I think it really would. Like, I think it would be interesting to see, as long as the match came out good, that it would go through. But I definitely don't think we're seeing a match like we saw, like, at Forbidden Door 2. Well, I agree with Chris. Like, they're going to put both together. Is it going to be good? Probably. But it's probably not going to be on the level that we saw. And again, bringing us back to kind of that first question, like, if I'm at an 80,000, stadium, the crowd's going to go nuts for Osprey, and they're probably going to riot if he loses. Let's be for real. Like, English fans are fucking crazy. But I think at the end of the day, when we go through, I think we're still going to get a solid match out of it. I think we're going to see a bunch of different spots that are going to come in. My worry about Chris being in there is obviously, and not being ageist, but it is his age. And when you're going against somebody that has an energy tank like Osprey on him, could be very quickly that Chris, gasses out. And that would be probably the worst case scenario to happen in that match if he gasses out about 7 or 8 minutes in. And right now, when you're looking at the card, and we know how long Tony likes his cards, so I'm assuming that the card that we're seeing right now is not a full card. We're already at 8 matches. So the question is, he's definitely going to get at this point, if we were to run like a typical Tony Khan show, he's going to be around 20 to 30 minutes in this match. So it will be interesting to see. Hopefully we'll see some more stuff that kind of comes up from the weekend with Collision, and we're going to have a big week that leads up to Wembley, which will be great. So we'll get to that. Now, for another match that's kind of coming up, again, we're not going through every single one, but a massive match that we've had with a lot of a pretty kind of cool story that's starting to form, which originally started as Takeshita and Omega, is now basically turned into a trios match between the Elite and Bullet Club Gold. And I know that our friend here, Chris, is a big fan of the Bang Bang Gang and of all the people that are going to be involved in that match. So it should be an interesting one. So I would normally ask Chris this question to start, but I'm going to go with Josh. It's an interesting question, very short, sweet, to the point. Is this match going to be the match of the night? Because we got some great wrestlers in this match. We got a big case occasion with 80,000 people, and we got basically one group that's already over as probably the best faction in AEW, and we got one group that's on their way up. What do you think happens here? Is this the match of the night? Yes or no?
Yes and no. No if FTR Young Bucks goes off. Yes if it doesn't go off. Like, I think that it could be the match of the night if FTR and the Young Bucks go off. But if FTR and the Young Bucks have the match that they can, that's the match of the night for me. But I think that this could be equal or could steal the night if for some reason something goes wrong with the FTR match. But yeah, I think that it definitely can. I just find that like a trios match makes it difficult to have the match of the night because there's a lot of chaos in trios matches. So, like although it's going to have those super high spots, having that one extra guy sometimes brings the match down, and it doesn't give every player the spots that they need to create that super high, high star match. So I think that the tag match would likely be the highest rated match and the best match of the night, but this would be a close second if everybody comes through.
Yeah, it's a really interesting scenario when you're kind of going through it. There's just so much storyline in this match. It's unbelievable. Like I said, we talked about Takeshita and Omega, but there's it's interesting when you talk about the past in NJPW that Ibushi has had with Jay White, and you're kind of looking at the people that are kind of left over. Like Takeshita's really trying to make a name for himself. Jay White's on the precipice of really being one of the best leaders, I think, in Bullet Club all time. Probably going over, in my opinion, and this is arguable by any means, probably going over Finn or Prince Devitt at that point, and probably going over AJ to probably be one of the top leaders for Bullet Club by really doing this own formation in AEW. So it's really interesting with you're looking at Jay and Juice, and you look at the Guns, and you look at Bullet Club Gold as a whole, Chris. Do you really seem that this is going to be the match that really elevates them into that upper faction status in AEW? Because right now, the factions that we've really seen have really been the Elite. It's really been Blackpool Combat Club. Does this match allow them to, even with having the Guns on the side and not part of it, up that elevator, so to speak, of having potentially one of the best factions in AEW, and that being said, on national television?
Yeah, I think there's some history too. Did Jay White not take over from Omega?
No, yeah, I believe he did. Jay White did take over from Omega. That's another part of the storyline as well. Because Omega took over from Styles, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Jay White did take over from Kenny.
So there's some cool history for all the people who've been kind of on the Bullet Club scene, on the NJPW scene. There's some history there where have we ever had two leaders from the Bullet Club ever actually wrestle before?
Oh man.
Or previous leaders.
That's a tough. Like we'd have to go back over that, but I think like I'm not 100%
Not to
sure.
my recollection.
No. I think like you Styles, like the only ones that I can think of are Styles and Balor. That's it. But they were never like, but
Yeah,
they
that would-
like, and that was in WWE, right? Like those would be the only two that I would say they would have been the first that fought.
Yeah, but there's like no history, but right, WWE just kind of closed the
Pretty
book on
much.
that. So this is kind of interesting, especially with what you're saying. As Jay White being one of the better leaders, you kind of have the two best leaders going at it. So yeah, there's a lot of cool story for me here. I like that kind of stuff, and to me, like, they may not put it in the storyline, but to me, it's still there, right? So yeah, I think this could push Bullet Club a little bit further up the totem pole in AEW, and I mean, Bullet Club was a huge thing for years. So you'd see everybody in WWE having Bullet Club shirts. So I don't know, it'd be nice to have some relevancy to the Bullet Club come back, especially stateside, because it's never been huge stateside, like it's never been where it's lived. You know what I mean?
Well, you
It's
know what
always kinda
the
lived
funniest
in-
part
in-
is when you look at where it was the biggest in ROH, right? And so when you're looking at it from the whole perspective, it was massive in ROH because you were talking about the days with Marty Scurll, Adam Cole, and then you had the Cody Rhodes thing coming in, and that's where really that disbanding really started. Really came from the ROH NJPW situation. I think looking at it, I think like Jay White's been a stud for AEW, and he's done it like pretty silently. I think having that match, that 2 out of 3 falls match with FTR, really solidified him and really put him on his way up. And I mean, you know what? It's been kind of one of these things where he's an international superstar. You come into AEW, a lot of people might not have known who he was. The people that watch AEW probably do, but I don't think a lot of people nationally know about Jay White. Like if you were a WWE fan who predominantly watched WWE and tuned into AEW, you probably might not know who Jay White was. But I think silently he's turning into one of the best performers on any of the shows, WWE, ROH, or AEW, as like just basically this all-star that really keeps putting out these good performances on the mic, solid promos, solid in the ring, and just really, really doing a good job in whatever he's been given. So I think this match is going to be an absolute banger. I kind of agree with your statement, Josh. I think if the tag match lives out, I think because it's a title match and because it is FTR and the Bucks 3, like that's going to be, I think that'll be the match of the night. But this one could really do some damage. Like this one could really be a good one. If this especially kind of turns into, I love with the trios when it gets disjointed and kind of turns into this tornado tag match. When it starts doing that, that's when we're going to start seeing some of the best wrestling of the night. And it's going to be chain, it's going to be in the air, and it's going to be fucking amazing. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great one. Now, it's going to bring us to, basically we're going to have 2 more matches we're going to talk about. We'll hit up the rest of the card really quickly. And then basically we'll kind of finish up what we're going to be doing for the podcast. But what we're going to be talking about right now is the women's 4-way match for the AEW Women's Championship. Going into England, there's so many kind of storylines kind of coming in here. There was a little bit of a mini tournament to try and get in. People had to win to get in. But I mean, lots of kind of storyline here too. When you're kind of looking at Saraya, Saraya comes from England, has wrestled in Europe for many, many years before she went into WWE and was there. Britt Baker's in this match. She's not had the title for a while. Now she's actually pressing for this title and has had a lot of story with the Outcasts. It's funny about Toni Storm. When you look at Toni Storm in this situation, basically, comes from, I believe, Australia, has English citizenship and wants to denounce her English citizenship from what she's talked about. And then finally, having the title holder as Sheeta, going into, I think, the match when a lot of people thought it was going to be Toni, right? So the big one is here, guys, with this four-way match and going through. Josh, when you're kind of looking at the people that are in the match, so when you're looking at Saraya, you're looking at Toni Storm, you're looking at Sheeta as the champion, and Britt, who is going to go over here, and who do you think is going to be the face of the AEW's Women's Championship moving forward?
Oh, I think it's really hard to say. I actually don't see any of these four women being the champion right now. Not because I think that Britt Baker could be the one that holds it because she's, could be the face of the company, but she's kind of held that role already. I'm kind of disappointed that they don't have other women on in this match. Like a Chris Statlander. I know that this is for a different title, but like I would have been more interested in seeing that type of match instead of this one. I think it might be a cheap way to get the title off of Sheeta, and having it go to like a Britt Baker. I hope it doesn't go on Saraya. I'm really not keen on her wrestling right now. I'd be happy with Toni Storm as well. You can kind of see that her storyline's changing it a little bit, so I don't think that she's going to win just based on the fact that her storyline's kind of going into like the sob story, like look what I lost kind of thing. So it's just not playing like she's going to win. I think it's going to go to Britt Baker, only because I actually don't see the other three winning. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm interested to see. This will be the surprise of the night for me.
I think this is like if we were betting people, which we are. I think it would be one of those things that if you were to try and pick a winner in this match, this would definitely be the hardest one to pick. Now, Chris, before we get into our next question, I'm kind of interested. Since this is such a hard decision, who would you pick to go over here? Do you agree with Josh and say it's Britt? Or do you think you stay the course with Sheeta because she's like the first ever AEW champion? Or do you go with one of the outcasts? Do you go with the previous champion? Or do you go with Saraya to get the 80,000 plus home, whatever it is, like ruckus, like the big ovation for her winning?
Yeah, I hope it does. I mean, Saraya's gonna have to get carried in the match, so I hope she's not the one who leaves the championship. I mean, that would be, yeah, she doesn't wrestle enough, and what she does do in the ring is not, she's nowhere near she was when at her prime. So, I mean, I don't want to see that. It's hard to argue. So I'm just looking at the card again. It's hard to argue that. I don't know. It is like you're right. It would be a pick 'em, right? No matter who you go with, you're not going to be super confident that you have the right pick. You could keep it on Sheeta and then have a one-on-one match, like with somebody who's in this four-way match, and then build it over the week. There's all these possibilities now with All Out the next week when you think about it. Like there's so many things you actually can do.
Yeah.
It's hard to go against Britt Baker in this one because she's been on the sidelines for a while. Like she was the face, and she's been a company person there. She's been in storylines even when she's injured. She's been on TV. So maybe this is a good chance to get her back up and running, give her some momentum.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. I think when you look at a lot when it comes to Britt, I think the tougher sell here is that you have an English person in this match, which makes it a tough sell, and that's what makes it really hard to go over. I think if Saraya wasn't in this match and it was somebody else, I think it becomes very clear that Britt wins this match. But I think with Saraya in it and with Toni Storm in it, and let's face it, like I've been really impressed with Toni Storm's championship run. I was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Especially when you kind of looked at Toni Storm in WWE, never really got a shot. Went to the main roster. She's a great looking girl. Can do a lot of great things in the ring. But I was really impressed with how she kind of took the reins of, originally being that interim champion and then being that actual champion, and how she kind of used that. And I'm actually really looking forward to what her next kind of progression with her character seems like. This kind of like this woe is me 1960s like hoity-toity like high-end actress. Like you can't like Karen, like you can't do that to me, like they're all against me. And it's just like kind of wearing the robe that she's wearing in the kimono, so it's kind of playing that old like pinup, that old 1960s pinup girl, right? Like, which is kind of a really cool way to go with the character, because I don't think it's really been done before. It's very unique. So is she the face of the company? Not right now. Can she be? I think she's in my eyes, she has a lot better chance of being the face of the company at some point in the future now, when I thought maybe a couple months ago she wouldn't have had a shot at all. So with that, I think Britt does go over. I think gives a chance to go with it. I think, and what happens at All Out is I don't even think we'll see this title go at all out. I think Josh is going to get his wish, and I think us too. We're going to see Statlander have a match probably at all out. That'll be on that pay-per-view, and let's just face it, we're all waiting for the return of Jade Cargill. That's the reality of what's happening with that belt. Jade's coming back hungry for her belt. So, my last question for this, just with this match, Chris, is that if you're going through it, and you guys can vote, we talk about some of the matches when they get boring on the card as that they're smoke break matches. The question is, in this scenario, when you're looking at this, will this match be a smoke break match, or will it be a banger? And is it going to compare or be better or worse than the match that with that trio, with the three-way that we saw at SummerSlam with Flair, Bianca Belair, and with Asuka? Chris, what are your thoughts?
I don't think it's going to live up to that three-way. I think that's going to be better. I don't know. It seems like they don't put as much. It seems like they get lazy with their women's division, even the matches. So, like, we're going to see, it's going to be kind of a cookie cutter match, and then with a spot here or there, which they may not have worked on them enough with. So we might see it progress slowly. We might see a botch. I assume Saraya is going to botch at least one move. So I don't know. I'm still interested to see how it goes out, because like I said, we really don't. We all think Baker's going to take it, but we don't. None of us are really sure. So might save me from a smoke break just from the intrigue of the match.
Interesting. Josh, I just have one simple question for you. Would this match have been better as a ladder match?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that what about Elimination Chamber, something a little hardcore, get some blood. I agree with everything Chris said. I think that this four-way match is a way to get four women on the card without having two matches with women in them, and so it's a lazy booking. Like the story's not there, and it's just a way to like say like, well, we're doing our best with the women's division, and this is what we did, and we're getting all your favorites on the card, and I don't know. It's I think the match could be okay. But I agree that it's definitely probably going to be one of the worst of the night, because they're just not promoting that. They're not promoting the women the way they should. There's definitely going to be a spot where all four of them are in the corner, and there's like a double suplex with a power bomb, and it's gonna happen, and it'll happen at least once. I mean, they might fuck it up, but it's gonna happen. I bet you it will be Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker with Toni Storm doing the power bomb and Saraya going over the top. That's who it's going to be.
Wow. Josh is calling this match down the middle. I like it. So, but yeah, it's going to be a good one. I really hope so. I mean, we've been talking about women's wrestling. I was actually, funny story, I was talking to my mom about women's wrestling actually this week, and how they don't really necessarily get enough time. There's not enough time on it, and how we'd love it if there was kind of a Josh was talking about the physicality that you like to see, and I said if they were just more physical in a lot of cases and like hit each other a little bit harder, I think they'd win over a lot more fans, right? So I think at that when they go through, I really just want to see something that's believable, that looks good. It's going to be hard with Saraya's neck, and her not being in the ring as much. And yeah, Chris, there probably will be a botch, and I think it's probably will come from her, right? Especially with not having the repetitions being in the ring like that. But hopefully it ends up being a good one. I'm really hoping that it does end up being a banger of some sorts when we kind of go through it. Now, we're going to come to the main event. Now, Cole and MJF, if you've listened to this podcast, we've talked about outcomes last week. We've talked about almost this whole match, but there's no way that we're going into Wembley and not talking about this. But what I've kind of done here is we're kind of going to kind of take it in a little bit of a different direction with a couple of the topics. So if you do want to hear our thoughts on the outcomes of this match and really about Cole and MJF, like I said, please listen to episodes. Probably it'll be 9, 10, and 11. They should be on there. But to start this one off, we're looking, we have discussed a lot of those outcomes, but Chris, when you look at the ROH tag titles in the 0 hour, right now they're listed as they're the only match listed on the 0 hour for the event. Now, does this end up being a really long match, and do they end up taking the titles here to really move the storyline to closer to the end of the night? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd like it. I'd like them to win the titles. Gives them a week where they'll... So, okay, this is kind of contrived and and like I have a long story here, but what I think they should give them the titles. They should give them the titles. They should go do their main event, and then this will set up next week with can make the main event match either really close or have somebody come in and you know, do the run in and have it super not clean. And then with them having the tag titles, the next week you can force them on ROH or on Dynamite to defend the tag titles. Then you can have them wrestle again on All Out. So, I mean, if you want to take the belt off MJF, you could have them, which I don't think they do. But, I mean, it would be an interesting thing to see him get the cheating win with somebody. Like, what if Roderick Storm turns on Adam Cole? And then they have to defend the tag titles that week, obviously in Turmoil. And then basically at All Out, you can have them rematch.
I'm so fucking excited for this match because there's so many things that could happen, and I'm just waiting to see. It's just like kind of like, I always say that human beings take a lot of pride in just being right all the time. It's like the internet. It's like everybody's out there to make sure that their opinion matters and that everybody has to be right all the time. But when you get to be 40 years old, you fucking don't care about that anymore. I just want to see what happens. And I think one of the crazy things here is that, again, you mentioned it, Chris, you know, you look at Roderick Strong and the OG and the original, the OG Kingdom, right? So basically Taven and Bennett. And they're still in this storyline now. Josh, that's my question for you. With those guys there and seeing what's happened with Roddy wearing the neck brace, and, you know, having Taven and Bennett, I know that you're not exposed to them as much. What do you think, what role do you think they will have to play in that pay-per-view? Because let's face it, if we've all been to an ROH event, like, this could be a situation where Roderick Strong, Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett, after pretty much being, you know, not on a big stage at any point, could be on the biggest stage of their career in the main event trying to tackle this. Do you think that they're involved in that? And do you think that something could really happen with them on this this thing that people will be talking about for years?
I don't think what they're going to do people are going to be talking about for years, because I don't think that the story with Roderick Strong's very strong. But I do think that they're going to get involved with the tag match, potentially causing MJF and Adam Cole not to win the tag team titles, to leave some kind of animosity in their world championship match. But it could be that it's the opposite, and I agree with Chris that if it plays out like he says, that if they win the titles and then there's like a swerve in the championship match, then that would be interesting. What I think it could be is that the swerve could be the opposite, where it's Roderick Strong's playing this, you know, Adam Cole's kind of been like, you know, using them as like puppets and kind of making it, they'll help Adam Cole win, where we'll see Adam Cole swerve the opposite direction. MJF will be the face and Adam Cole will be the heel. So I think that's potentially what we see happen in the main event. But I don't know. I'm actually not really keen on this tag team championship match, and I think it's kind of a waste of, you know, potentially different talent getting an opportunity to be on the card instead of having MJF and Adam Cole wrestle twice. You know, I'm just hoping that, you know, no one gets hurt and then we lose out on the MJF Adam Cole match. Yeah. And so, like, I imagine some shenanigans are going to happen in that tag team match, and then you're kind of wasting that story that they have as a tag, you know, Matt.
Yeah, and Chris, I think that's what I'm trying to lean to. I think, like, and I honestly think I kind of semi-disagree with Josh in the sense that if Adam Cole was looping those guys around all the way through, and 80,000 people, and he creates a new stable, because let's face it, there is no Undisputed Era anymore. Like, you don't have Kyle O'Reilly anymore. Like, that's a person that's been out that could potentially get involved. I think the minute we see Kyle O'Reilly is the minute that we're going to see something crazy happen. And you can see this brand new stable forming in front of us. And I think, like, that's a great way to get the title off MJF. And I think it's a great way to see how MJF is going to look like as a face chasing for a longer period of time. Because I think if Cole wins the title, he's not going to give the title up the next week. It's going to be a scenario where he's going to have it for at least 6 months. And I think you're going to have MJF chasing. I think MJF and Cole is not going to be a one and done after Wembley. I think this is going to go on for a while. and it's going to be a money thing, right? So yeah, it'll be really interesting. I think it also gives guys like Bennett and Taven, who have been insanely and even strong, very good, solid, like some of the best world performers, that actually give them a stage to actually work on, which would be a big thing for them as well, to showcase their talents. What we can do is Josh, what do you want to do? Do you want to slice your salami now, or would you rather talk about some 5-star matches? Because I think you'd like to slice your salami.
Oh, let's talk. No, I mean, if we have more to talk about, we talk about 5-star matches, and then I can slice my.
I just got a quick little thing just to kind of go through with this. It's just quick fire. So if you guys have the card in front of you and you're looking at the card, what do you think will go down as a 5-star Dave Meltzer match on this card when we look at it? I know we've talked about some of the matches, but there might be a match on there that might go a little bit different. So you can use the whole card. Do you think there's another match other than what we've talked about that could be a 5-star Meltzer match?
Not a match with Eddie Kingston in it.
Why do you say that, Chris?
I don't know. Eddie Kingston, it's weird. Like,
he's the NJPW strong champion, though.
Yeah, well, I know. I don't know.
I mean, there's no way a Stadium Stampede match is a 5-star.
It's been done as a 5-star match.
It's just too fucking. I'm not saying, but I'm saying this group of people are not making a 5-star match.
There's just too much to go wrong. It's too much to go wrong in a Stampede Stadium match. Like, things are gonna go wrong. Like, a prop might not work properly. Like, you're right.
Okay. I'm gonna change this up a little bit. I fucked up the original version of Quickfire. I apologize to everybody out there. I said it's stupid. It's my fault. Let's change this up. Quickfire. Josh, who are the mystery partners for BCC and against the best friends, Cassidy, Eddie Kingston, Chris's favorite, and the Lucha Brothers? Who would be a good guess for that?
I have. I have no idea, to be honest with you. Will Hobbs and what's his face? His mentor.
QT Marshall.
I really have no idea who they're gonna pick. I mean, it might be two. You know what? It could be just two Japanese dudes or two English dudes. It
seems really weird. Like, it seems like for mystery partners for that match, who would it be? Do you think, Chris? Who do you think it would be? Like, has anybody heard any rumor about who the mystery partners could be?
I haven't, but there's 3 of them. Like, so I mean, it could be.
Is it 3? I thought it was 2.
It's only 2 because
Moxley. It's going to be Moxley, Wheeler, Yuta, and Claudio, right?
Yeah.
So there'll only be 2 mystery
Eddie,
partners.
Orange.
I'm literally hoping it's Nick Gage and his pizza cutter. Those should be the 2 others.
It's 6-on-6. Eddie Kingston, Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, Beretta, Penta.
Oh yeah.
Ray.
So it is 3.
You're right.
Okay, you're right. My apologies.
I mean, this might be a good option to put in if Blackpool Combat Club cuts a deal with the House of Black.
Yeah, I was just
That'd be a fucking kind of slaughter.
That's kind of all I can think, and if I think about that, that's got some potential. That's got some good potential there.
That seems to be like it's an extremely one-sided match. Oh man,
Orange Cassidy would take a beating.
According to Chris, who gets the win in this match? Eddie Kingston via back elbow, whatever
that backhanded slap is.
Back elbow, pass out, falls on top for the 3. That's what's happening in that match. But yeah, it's
John Moxley with stomps to Eddie Kingston for the win.
Yeah, it's
John Moxley stomps.
Yeah, Josh, you know what? I'd probably be leaning towards just I'd probably say like they'd be ties to somebody in like ROH, but somebody. It has to be somebody that the crowd knows, right? Like, so I find it'd be really interesting to see who would go against the faces. Like, who would be heel enough to go through and get those guys, right? So it'd be kind of interesting to see if it was some people from NJPW that comes through. So, but Josh, shing, 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 shing. What slices your salami, my friend? What topic do we have on the go for this week's angle?
All right, tonight, since we talked about AEW, this is going to be an AEW slices my salami. So you guys know what really slices my salami about AEW?
What?
everyone has a goddamn title. Everybody's walking in with the title. They're bringing people from ROH with 4 titles. I mean, Brian Cage has a title. Who doesn't have a title in AEW? Everybody's got a title. It's confusing. Stop it. If they're not your promotion, stop putting them on TV with a frickin' belt, because you're confusing your fans, fellas. And that is what slices my
Josh, you know my favorite part of that was when you're like, everybody's got a title, so stop it. Stop it.
It's just like, and then all of a sudden, why is Samoa Joe's title the smallest in the business? Like, it looks like it's made from 1964.
Well, it's the smallest title on the biggest man, so that's the other thing that it looks like. And I'm kind of hoping that he gets on the show and that he comes out in his Twisted Metal outfit or something like that. That'd be pretty messed up and crazy if he did it. I'd love to see that.
He's good in it.
Yeah,
he's good in Twisted Metal.
CM Punk supposed to fight?
Punk is going to fight Samoa Joe, so Punk is going to fight Joe. They're going to fight again, though. And that was honestly rumored and slated for... it should be for All In. That's a rumored match for All In, which will be great if it happens. That could be a match
They'll probably announce it tomorrow.
Yeah, like we said, we're not there for all the way on the card. Again, for the people that are watching, this pay-per-view is going to be next week. We're actually shooting on a Friday, so we're just trying to get as much in as we can. We'll probably talk about some other stuff going into it next week, but we are going to get back to our WWE and everything like that next week as well. Gentlemen, is there anything you'd like to add before we end the show?
Yeah, I was thinking, I know it kind of already said it, but I think that it's Jey Uso that's going to show up to the Blackpool Combat Club. Jey Uso and Trinity is going to show up, and maybe Sasha.
Yeah,
Sasha Banks.
Holy
right there you go, Mercedes. That's the trio.
Those are the mystery partners. Before we go, I actually read an article saying that they're trying to space out the Jay and Jimmy feud. The reason that they got Jay out was to write him off for a bit so that they can try and space out that feud. But it looks like Jay and Jimmy are going to feud for a while. So that'll be something that we talk about next week.
Maybe Jay had a DUI again.
I don't think so. I mean, I think the only one behind bars recently has been
soon.
Cash Wheeler, so I think he's been the only one. But that's
yeah.
whatever. We're so Cash. We love you, man. We're big FTR fans. We hope that you actually get through everything and that you can get across the border. We really want to see that match real bad. So here's hoping. I don't think you listen to our podcast, but I'm just throwing it out there anyways for episode 12. But with that being said, gentlemen, wherever you are in the world tonight, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. We bid you all adieu. Bang!